And what I wanted to do was similar to my thought process of how I was able to get to the NFL, was just learning a playbook that is high level that I'm able to translate into my own business.
There is a new American dream, one that doesn't involve working till you're 65 before you start enjoying life. If you're someone looking for ways to regain control over your time and check off that bucket list now, you're in the right place. We share tips from experts on investing, personal finance, and mindset so that you can finally have the freedom to work less and live more. This is the Freedom Investing Podcast with your host, Chris Toribio.
What's going on, everyone? This is Chris Toribio with the Freedom Investing Podcast, and I am so happy you're here to join us for another amazing episode. If this is your first time tuning in, welcome to the show. Please make sure to hit the subscribe button so you can stay up to date with our latest episodes. Moving on to today's guest, we have Yannik Cudjoe-Virgil. Yannik is the principal of Merlynn Acquisitions, a real estate investment and syndication firm with $5.8 million in assets under management. He is also the host of the Mogul Marathon Real Estate Podcast. His experience in commercial real estate began as an asset manager by trade for both retail and institutionally capitalized real estate private equity firms, with over $1.5 billion in assets under management, where he oversaw large multidisciplinary commercial real estate portfolios across the U.S. Prior to real estate, Yannik played in the NFL for the Tennessee Titans. Yannik believes that cash flow is the key to financial freedom. Yannik, welcome to the show. Before we dive into it, give us a quick 2-minute rundown of who you are, your background, and where you are in your journey to achieving time freedom.
Sounds good. Well, Chris, thank you so much for having me on the show. Again, my name is Yannik Cudjoe-Virgil, a real estate investor, full-time syndicator. My background, as you mentioned, is primarily from the NFL. I played football for the Tennessee Titans. And unfortunately, I had a knee injury that I had to transition into the world of real estate. You know, what got me into real estate really was reading a book called Rich Dad, Poor Dad, kind of like everybody in the real estate space today. But for me, you know, I tell people this story. I spent $20,000 in 1 month, the first year in my off season, in my rookie year, and I had no idea what I spent it on. And I knew that I did not want to be a part of the statistic where 78% of NFL players go broke within 3 years after leaving the NFL. And so I had to tell myself that, you know, if I'm unable to get back on the field, like, what is my next step? And fortunately, I latched on to Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And one of the biggest things that I took away from that book, which resonates with me still to this day, is that it's not how much you make, it's about how much you keep. And in the space of professional athletics, you hear the stories all the time about athletes going broke, and that's because they make a bunch of money, but they don't know how to keep it. So today, I've transformed into a full-time real estate investor and syndicator, and we help everyday professionals, business owners, and professional athletes invest in real estate through our company.
Yannik, that's incredible. And first and foremost, kudos to you for having that realization early on in your career, and that, like, you know, what if something were to happen to you? You know, we talk about this all the time. You know, as a healthcare provider, I wasn't NFL salary by any means, but at the same time, it was a good salary. And it's very easy to get into a position where, like, all right, well, now I can just kick back and relax and just spend all this money. Having that realization that if something were to happen to me, I need to make sure that I have other streams of income to make sure that I am supported. And so kudos for you for having that level of wisdom early on in your career. And so I want to break this down a little bit, though. So obviously you had some sort of real estate experience prior to starting up your own syndication company. Was this after you played for the NFL Titans or for the Tennessee Titans, or was this during? At what point in your career did you have this real estate experience?
Yeah, so this was after. So I knew that I wanted to get into real estate, specifically commercial real estate, because you're able to control more of your investment. Whereas in residential, the values are just specifically based off of comps. And my journey began when I started as a broker. in the multifamily space. Then I moved into several asset management positions by private equity firms that I've worked for in the past. And what I wanted to do was similar to my thought process of how I was able to get to the NFL, was just learning a playbook that is high level that I'm able to translate into my own business, into my own experience. So I wanted to earn while I learn. So I spent about 4 years in the private equity setting, just taking a bunch of information, learning, figuring out how can I put a business plan together that is similar to the top real estate professionals in our industry. And so while I was doing that and playing, I started investing in real estate on a small level, fix and flip projects. But then as I got more confidence to go out there and raise money, we started transitioning into the world of syndications. And so that allowed me to leave my job this past April. So I'm about 7 months into full-time entrepreneurship and real estate investing. And thank you. And through building a portfolio and doing deals, we were able to achieve financial freedom, which is one of the basis of my conversations today, is that real estate investing is a great way to leverage assets and cash flow to go out there and live your life on your own terms.
Absolutely. And so let's backstep a little bit. So you were playing for the NFL. You had the realization that in your rookie year, you spent $20,000. You have no idea where it came from or where it went. And so once you had that realization, you read Rich Dad Poor Dad. What did you do after that to make sure that you didn't make that same type of spending habit a regular thing?
So I started just educating myself. I put down the Madden, I put down the 2K, I put down the Call of Duty, and I really started just educating myself. So I started taking courses on like Udemy, which they offer different, MBA courses, like anything finance related that allowed me to get the knowledge to invest the right way is what I really focused on after that. And I truly believe that education is the biggest equalizer. Like you don't have to have a MBA in real estate to be successful in real estate. You don't have to have an MBA in business to be a successful startup. But if you're willing to leverage the tools that are out there on the internet, I like to say YouTube University and Google University, right?
Yes.
You can leverage those resources to put yourself in a position to be successful.
No, that's great. And way to be resourceful there. You're right. I mean, you don't have to go through the rigors of formal education in order to educate yourself. In fact, there are so many people that are out there that have truly made it that didn't even finish high school. And so that's a testament to what it takes in terms of maybe being resourceful, seeing what levers you can pull in other areas of your life, so that way you can best position yourself for success. And so when it came to commercial real estate, I know that you had made the decision to go with that because you didn't have to be dependent on comps in that area. Is this something that you encountered throughout your entire experience with Udemy and the other self-education things that you used?
Yeah. So one of the things that was able to help me understand the values of commercial real estate really was, I met a developer back in Tennessee at like a Nashville Predators game. I don't really look at hockey, but I was just there for the game. And so he had a nice watch on. I said, "Hey, what do you do?" He said, "I do commercial real estate." And so, he started touring me on different properties, and he handed me something called an offering memorandum. And back then I had no idea what that was. This was back in like 2016 or so. And from his conversations, he basically explained the value of being able to increase properties through rents, reducing operating expenses, and different strategies that commercial real estate professionals can use to impact the valuation within their investments. And I'm naturally just not really an emotional person. And I think residential is very emotional. And in the world of commercial real estate, it's more strategic, it's more analytical, which perfectly fits my DNA. And so that pushed me to the commercial real estate side because it just totally makes more sense when you're able to leverage analytics and you're able to leverage strategy and different systems to impact the valuations to amass a larger real estate portfolio compared to residential real estate. So that is essentially what drew me to the commercial real estate side.
That's fantastic. And so when you're going through this process of educating yourself, transitioning into commercial real estate, were you having any of these discussions among your other teammates? Like, I guess what was that like in terms of, your trajectory and your path and the other people that were around you at the time?
Honestly, I didn't really have too many conversations at that time. It was a lot going on because I was really just trying to get healthy, and part of being injured as a whole, but specifically in the professional sports setting, is that there's a lot of pressure that comes with that because essentially you're fighting for your livelihood, right? I tell people all the time, like, professional athletics is so challenging mentally. I mean, think for example, right, a regular W-2 income job, right, corporate position. If you had the pressures when you walked into the building of, man, I got to do good today or else my job is going to be gone. If I mess up in practice today, I'm going to get cut. Every Tuesday is a day off in the NFL. So you have 5 to 10 people that are coming in to try out every single week to take your spot. I mean, that pressure adds tremendously. So really, to answer your question, I didn't have those conversations because my number one focus was to get back on the field. But then also my other focus was to just get educated in real estate just to have a backup plan.
I love that. Yeah. I mean, I'm from Chicago and we all know the story about Derrick Rose when he got hurt with his ACL. And I just remember the level of pressure, even just the city had placed on the institution, on the team, on the coaches, to make sure that Derrick Rose got better. No one talked about Derrick Rose's journey to, have to get better and his pressure that he put on himself, let alone the rest of the city. So you're right.
Yeah. I totally agree, man. It's one of those things where people don't really see. They kind of see the sports context of it on the outside looking in, like, oh, these professional athletes play, make millions of dollars. They should just deal with it. But at the end of the day, man, we're just all people. It's no different from someone going to work for IBM. They're just trying to earn a living, and they just so happen to be extremely talented in a space that pays a lot of money. So, people need to kind of look at that from that context.
Absolutely. And so when it came to your first transition into commercial real estate, at this point right now, you have 5.8 million in assets under management. How did you get yourself to the point where you closed on that first deal? What did that kind of look like?
So part of that was leveraging partnership, which is really important, I think, for anyone trying to get into the world of commercial real estate. I met my partner at a meetup event about 3 years ago, and that relationship just formed organically over time. And he and I just started having more and more conversations, and he had already done a syndication in the past. And so it was really an opportunity for us to leverage our strengths. We worked well together, and I leveraged his experience to talk to my investors about having a qualified team. And when people jump into the world of commercial real estate, it's very tough to get over that hurdle because you have to have an experienced team to get the deal, to potentially raise the capital. And so a lot of those questions can be answered by having an adequate partnership, having a partnership that already has the experience that you're looking for, because that helps soften some of the conversations that you're going to have with your investors. So that is what I did. I leveraged his experience. Prior to that, I did an LP in a deal prior to that, but we did an 18-unit deal, which was a deal located in Baltimore, Maryland, which is our primary investment market. And it was an opportunity to do a value add opportunity on 18 units with significant rent increases that was accretive for our investors. So we did that deal, and we're currently working on it. And, it's exciting being able to have partnership, leverage other people's partnerships and experience, and just grow a real estate portfolio that you can be proud of.
I love that. Yeah. I mean, commercial real estate is really, the beauty of it is the fact that it's a team sport. People can bring synergistic skill sets to the table, and together you can achieve much larger things than any individual person can achieve. And over here in Chicago, it's a very unique situation because much of the housing stock is actually small multifamily properties, and so something like 2 to 4 unit properties make up around I think it's like 40% of the housing stocks here in Chicago. It's pretty crazy to think about. And so when you think about that, it's very easy to get caught in the sense of like, well, these 2 to 4 unit properties, I can just take on this myself, right? I can take on this myself. I can take this myself. And it's a very different approach as opposed to commercial real estate investing where you have that team and those synergistic relationships.
Yeah, no, totally agree. Totally agree. And I think that the difference between that is, I like to tell people who are trying to get into this space, when you want to buy larger apartment acquisitions with partners and do bigger deals, you really have to commit to it. If you're not willing to commit to it, commit to the processes, commit to the systems, commit to raising capital, commit to screening a lot of deals, commit to underwriting 100 deals just to submit on 10 and hopefully get one, then you're not going to be successful in this space. So I think stepping up into bigger deals is just the mindset aspect, the mindset that I'm going to commit to this because this opportunity here has an enormous amount of benefits in the future.
I love that. And I want to actually break that down a little bit, right? Because here's the thing. We all have the same 24 hours in a day, right? And so the part of that process, as you had mentioned, you're going to have to take a look at a lot of deals. You're going to have to underwrite a lot of deals. You're going to have to, develop those relationships with other investors. How did your partner structure your time so that way you can actually endure this for a prolonged period of time and be as efficient as possible when it comes to doing these things?
Yeah. I think part of that is just leveraging your strengths. My partner is focused on the day-to-day asset management responsibilities, interfacing with the property management companies, putting things together for our investors. My responsibility is more on the construction side, managing the value add process, doing some of the asset management tasks. And I think that is important because you really have to know that once you acquire these deals, there's a total different process that goes in line with actually implementing the business plan that I think is not talked about. And so it's easy to get wrapped into the day-to-day operations, but at the same time, you're trying to scale your business. And how you structure that is, one, by leveraging your strengths, making sure that everyone on your team has a specific role, but then putting a plan together for someone to take over some of the small, mundane tasks that you really don't want to participate in, but is important to keep the business going. So our plan is to leverage virtual assistants. We plan to hire someone full time in the future. All of those things are really important when you're trying to scale your business, because I say all the time, if you're really trying to get to the next level in real estate private equity, and this is what I've learned from my tenure in different private equity firms, is that most of your time should be spent on raising capital and finding deals. But when you're starting off, you have to be the guy in your business. You have to do all the small tasks. That's just part of business. But as long as you have that end game in mind when you're structuring your business, eventually you're going to get to that level.
I love that. Yeah, at the very beginning, you are wearing all the hats in your business, and as long as you have the intention and the plan to make sure that you are doing what it is you are truly the best at, or what is the best return on your time investment, and leveraging out anything that's less than that is definitely a key to scaling there. And so when it came to transitioning into this, obviously you didn't have a degree in any sort of, commercial real estate. You were trained by Udemy, YouTube, and also mentorships through other people who are more experienced than you. Did you encounter any sort of resistance when you started talking about this to people when you first got started?
Honestly, I didn't get too much resistance. I think it's because of me positioning myself as an authority, from educating the community, putting out different posts on LinkedIn. People knew that I was getting into real estate. And then also just surrounding myself with a team really helped a lot, because that, again, softened some of the questions that I was asked about being able to actually execute and get this done. And I wanted to make sure that I had the credibility. And that's why I started working for private equity firms and having that experience, because I wanted to learn on someone else's dime. And part of that educational process was being able to implement those strategies that I would eventually do in my own business. And so when you add those different experiences up and you surround yourself with the right team, a lot of those questions don't tend to be bogged down on, because people realize that, hey, this person is serious, he's an authority, and I think that he can actually get the job done because he has the experience and he's surrounded himself with the right team.
Well said. Well said. Especially coming from a completely different industry. You know, ourselves as well, we came from an industry in healthcare. And so when we first transitioned into this commercial real estate space, one of the things we really had to lean on was the expertise of the people that were around us, the people who have been in this industry for those 20 to 30 years, being able to tap into their brains and being able to say, like, look, what did you do that was successful? What did you do that was not as successful? So that way we ourselves can position ourselves up for as much success up front, and also so people can take us seriously, because that's a huge component. And so at this point, guys, we are coming towards the end of today's show. But before we finish, it is time for the Freedom 5. These are 5 questions that we ask every guest on our show, starting with the most important question. What is your why? What is the underlying motivation behind everything it is that you do?
Well, that's a great question, and I hope that I could slam dunk it with this answer. So, my biggest why is to leave a legacy. I never wanted to get to the NFL to make millions of dollars just to be rich. You know, it was always from a perspective of leaving a legacy. You know, I came to this country, the U.S., with a bag of clothes at 10 years old in a small apartment, sleeping on the floor in New York. And what we've been able to accomplish is such a blessing, and being able to provide a blessing to someone else through real estate, providing good housing, being able to put our family in a position to create wealth so that we don't have to work a job. We don't have to wait until we're 60 to retire. You know, we can take a trip to Miami tomorrow and we'll be okay, is really important, because I grew up in a household where money was always a topic, but not in a positive light, right? Money was also an issue in my household. So my biggest why is to leave a legacy. Like I say, man, I want a statue. Like, how many people do you know have a statue? Like, statues last a long time, almost forever, right? So if I can leave a legacy, if I can create a statue for myself and create generational wealth and freedom, that's what I want. And so that's my why.
That's powerful. We always say that, you know, when you go into this business or any sort of venture, you have to have an emotional drive behind it. There has to be a purpose, because as you know, there are so many different things that you have to endure until you get to the point of success. And if you don't have a very crystal clear vision of why you're doing this in the first place, it's very easy to get burnt out. So that's powerful. The second question I have for you, Yannik, is what book has had the largest influence on your life?
So one of the books that has had a big influence on my life is the book, The One Thing by Gary Keller. And I really love that book because my transition from the professional space was centered around a lot of structure. You know, people told me where to be. People told me, hey, you have to be at meetings at 6 a.m. or you're going to get a $5,000 fine. You have to be at this at school or a classroom setting. You know, so the professional athletes, or just sports in general, is just a lot about structure. So when I jumped out of that space, it was just like all this time, and I really never had to like set my own schedule. So in the world of entrepreneurship, it's all about like you eat what you kill. So if you don't know how to manage your time and spend it in places where you're making money, you're going to be like, entrepreneurship would just be a passion project for you. The One Thing by Gary Keller really taught me what is the one thing that you should be doing, such that by doing this, everything else would be easy and unnecessary. And so what that actually allowed me to think was about, hey, everything that doesn't have to do with making money, I need to push that to the side. And everything that I should be doing on a day-to-day basis should be centered around pushing my business forward and actually making money in entrepreneurship. So The One Thing by Gary Keller is an amazing book.
I love that. And Yannik, I know we talk about all the time, like, what is your unique ability, right? Like, what is the one thing, again, that you're saying, what is the one thing that feels light in your business? And what is the one thing that you're good at? And you can do day in and day out without getting exhausted, and being able to leverage out the other stuff to other people is huge. All right. The third question we have here: what is the most impactful thing, whether that be a piece of technology, a habit, or a person, that has helped in freeing up your time?
So I love technology. People always used to make fun of me because I always used to have like the little gadgets and little hacks and stuff. And I really like technology because it allows you to streamline processes that really aren't important to your business. Or rather, let me say this, really, you shouldn't be spending your time on. So I use a lot of integrations like Zapier. I have a CRM called Asana, little things that can communicate with each other, because we live in a world of interconnectivity. We have these apps that can connect to our CP, that can connect to our fax machine, our printers, so leverage those technology options that are at our fingertips, because it's going to save you a ton of time, which you should be focused on in your real estate business or other businesses that you choose to participate in.
Love that. Love that. Yeah. Taking advantage of both technology as well as maybe even other people that could be of resource to you can be a critical component to your growth. Fourth question we have here is: what is the number one piece of advice you would give to anyone else looking to achieve more control over their time?
I would say the number one piece of advice really is just to really go back to your why, I think, because I see people all the time, like, they get excited about real estate. They're on bigger pockets. They read a bunch of information and they're just like, hey, let's do this real estate thing, right? And then they run into a wall and they say, this is a lot of work. I don't know if I really want to do it. They kind of lose that energy over time. And that really just tells me that their life really isn't so bad, right? Like, if I always like to say, like, when I set my goals in 2022, like, they should be accomplished by 2023 or earlier, because the pain of actually being able to sit in 2023 and say I haven't accomplished my goals supersedes anything else like that's going on right now, like just the pain and agony of, like, man, I wasn't able to achieve that goal. Like, it's just the discomfort that creates inside really drives me to be successful. So if you're trying to quit your job, if you don't like your boss, if you don't like your coworkers, which sadly, we do sometime, and you really want to have that financial freedom, like, you have to have a goal that has some sort of emotional connection, like you said, to drive you forward, because people will always do things based off of emotion. People do things for two reasons. It's either emotional pain or pleasure. And if you're able to tie that goal back to one of those things, that's going to drive you forward to accomplish whatever that you want to accomplish in life.
I love that. Well said. Fifth final question we have here for you, Yannik, is: what is the best way for our listeners to get in contact with you?
So the best way, again, our company is Merlynn Acquisitions. That's MERLYNN acquisitions.com. Definitely would love to have a 5 to 20 minute conversation with anyone that is interested in investing in real estate. We have a ton of resources. We have a due diligence checklist. We have ebooks. So we believe in education first, and then the folks who really understand or really want that financial freedom, that really want to put their money to work, are going to join with us, join our educational company, join our investment group, and invest in those opportunities to get to that next stage.
I love it. Make sure to check it out. Tons of good resources on that website, and reach out to him if there's any questions that you have. Yannik, lots of great information today. I really liked how you talked about your transition from the NFL into becoming a commercial real estate investor, as well as how you positioned yourself once you learned from that first month's lesson of managing your finances and being in a position where you're more responsible and driving yourself forward. I love how you talk about the emotional component that drives you and why you choose to do what you do day in and day out. I just want to thank you again for being a fantastic guest on our show, and I really look forward to remaining in touch.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And it was a pleasure being on the show today. So thank you so much.
Now, if you like this show and want to learn more about how we can help you free up your time through passive real estate investments, check out www.freedominvesting.com. Make sure to subscribe to our monthly newsletter and schedule an introductory call with our team. We also have a free 7-day course on what passive real estate investing is and how to get started so that you can start your journey towards earning back more time in your life. To all of our amazing listeners here on the Freedom Investing Podcast, my name is Chris Rubio. Till next time.